Hey everybody, it's Dan, and today might be a triple upload day because I've watched quite a few movies that I never got around to seeing before, and I figure I want to talk about them. This video is going to be about the Babadook. Um, Never got around to watching it until just the other day, and it turned out to be pretty good. I was surprised. Um, most modern horror films really just aren't all that good. The next one that I talk about actually will be one of those that wasn't particularly great. Um, but as far as this one goes, yeah, it was excellent. I wouldn't necessarily say that it frightened me or was terrifying by any means, but it did give me, just things to think about, which was pretty interesting. Let's see. Basically, it's an Australian film, um, and it takes place there about a woman whose husband had passed away and in a car accident, and she raises her son alone, and her son has some issues. They don't really specify exactly what's wrong with him, but he fixates on things a lot, and it's probably a safe bet that he's autistic. Um, so he ends up getting booted out of school for a couple of weeks and has to stay home. And nobody that the mother knows can really stand the child except for their next door neighbor, an elderly woman. Um, and eventually she just starts getting really sick of it throughout the film. But before that happens, somebody leaves her a children's pop up book called The Babadook, and it's about some kind of monster who comes into the house at night and, you know, looks sort of ridiculous, but ends up becoming pretty terrifying in the little story. Um, Talking about how you'll wish you were dead, this, that, and the other thing. Um, and slowly but surely, as the nights progress, it starts to seem like she's just kind of going insane. Um, and you're never really certain if it's because she's going nuts or if it's because the monster from the book is actually real and is taking her over. Um, of course, it ends up being the case that the monster is real, and her and the son find a way to, get it out of her. Well, mostly the son. And she ends up keeping it in the basement at the end and feeding it and all that stuff, and then keeping it placated because you can never get rid of it. That's part of the children's story. Now, this particular ending, excuse me, was interesting to me because while, of course, film is an art form and it can be interpreted several different ways, my interpretation of the entire film was that it was about mental illness, severe depression, and yeah, it was great. Depression makes you do very strange things. It can make you hurt those that you love, etc., so on and so forth. Much like everything that she did in the movie. And then at the end, keeping the monster there and feeding it and placating it and just keeping it down in the basement, really to me sort of signified that, you know, she had a total breakdown. She had a problem, but she ended up going to get help. And those of you who suffer from mental illness know, much like I do, that that's not really something that will ever go away. It's there, It's there all the time. You can't get rid of it for good. And that's exactly what happens to her. It's there. She placates it. She keeps it locked downstairs because she's going to therapy and she's getting the help that she needs and everything so that she's, relatively well adjusted. But no matter what, it's always still there. And the potential for something to go wrong and for it to come back out someday will remain there because you can never actually get rid of it. So I thought that was an interesting take on that sort of thing. And I mean, I could be wrong, and other people could interpret it different ways. But that's just how I felt it was. Now, if you've already seen the movie and you've interpreted it in a different way, go ahead and leave in the comments down below what you thought of it and what your opinion of the message behind the film was. I'd love to hear it. All right, bye.